You're good. You're good.
Not really. We're all at home safe. Doors are locked. But I got called down here because channel, I believe it was 35.
Okay.
Who I was. But, I don't mind going, saying who I am. I'm a local guy.
Okay.
And we like to do everything. So
Thank you, babe. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.
Hey, man. Can I get a quick recap while you're just sitting here, if you don't mind? Sorry about that. I'll get my light to work.
We're on 35. Hope we don't make nobody mad. Call me.
Oh, really?
But that's part of the job, right?
Yeah.
Y'all gonna be out here for a while, right?
Yeah, probably. So, there we go. All right, let me just get a quick white balance here while we're doing this. All right. Can you just say and spell your name for me?
Dallas Tyler, that's DALLASTYLER.
Give me 1 second, because I gotta fix something. There we go. So, you live around here?
Yes, sir, I do.
And what can you tell us about what happened?
I don't know a whole lot, but what I can tell you is we come home from getting dinner, ate dinner, around that 9:30, 10 o'clock. It's just, I know what gunshots sound like, but it sounds like fireworks.
Yeah.
And I got the family in the house, kids are safe, wife's safe, doors are locked. And, we just got protected and, we're ready if we need to.
When did you first realize there was something wrong?
When I seen something on Facebook, about a couple of cops going down the road. And on the way home, we actually seen a deputy sent down the road, and then we started hearing a lot of sirens and stuff, and it just went on from there.
Mm-hmm. I'm listening to our newscast right now, and they're saying they were still hearing some gunshots going off right now. Now, do you live anywhere like really close to where this is closed off, or?
No, sir, it's not that close. It's a good little ways in the same neighborhood, but more in the back.
Oh, okay. Okay. What goes through your mind when something like this happens?
Well, what comes to my mind is, I'm a country boy, so I like to protect people, but what comes to my mind is keeping everybody safe, family, friends, everybody's safe. But if it comes to having to protect my family, that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah, sounds good. Anything else that you can remember that you think might be good for people to know about?
Good thing to know about is always remember one thing: watch your surroundings, watch who you hang around with, and just always be protected.
Yeah, sounds good. Thank you very much, sir.
Yes, sir.
Stay safe, okay?
You too. Oh, that was good.
That was great.
I got to turn around now.
Yeah, thank you. Hey, what's up, Sarah?
What's going on? I should
So-
have seen you for another 3 months after that.
You don't want your face on camera?
No, I'm not the PI for the Sheriff's Office. I'm the PI for the county.
Can I at least record the audio so I can remember it all?
No, you can take notes on your phone, but no recording. You can be upset about all you want. This is an active crime family. You can be information I can. I didn't have to come over
I'm
here.
not upset.
I didn't have to come over here. I'm going to give you guys the information I can as quickly as I can, okay? Because I've got to go back to the crime scene. There's still an active crime scene. You guys are not going to be able to have somebody come over here for a good while. You guys have got SWAT team and officers down there.
Am I on mic? No. They're talking
No.
because they want me to go live, and I said I'm supposed to. Kat is currently talking to the PIO at the second. injuries. They've been rushed to a hospital in Sanford, and we are still waiting to hear about the condition of that third deputy tonight. But once again, this is the roadblock at County Road 439 and Mill Creek Road, where we have seen multiple law enforcement vehicles still going towards Brookside Drive. We actually just saw a mobile command center car, a vehicle come through within the last couple minutes as well. So they're starting to set that up, but we're told to prepare for a long night tonight as they work to secure that scene. And once that happens, they hope to give us the very latest information, which we will share with you as soon as possible. Guys, I'll send it back to you in studio. I heard it in my ear, Lisa, but I was walking you guys through that latest information, so I didn't get a chance to look up and try to spot who that helicopter is for, if it's for the sheriff's office or not. I can tell you when I spoke with that county spokesperson just a few minutes ago, she did confirm with me as well that there is a SWAT team that is at the scene. It remains very active, so it certainly would not surprise me if there was a law enforcement helicopter in this area trying to just get as much information as they can, any sort of viewpoint of what is going on over at Brookside Drive, so they can work to secure that scene and then tell us what led up to this and what happened tonight.
I was about to try to be like, it's not back yet. We're trying to come back. Yeah. No.
I'm going to turn this off and go try to charge.
Just moments ago to give us an update. As you mentioned, we do have 2 Lake County deputies here at the hospital right now. I'm told that one of them is in stable condition and the other is in critical condition and currently in surgery. The one who is currently stable, we're told, was shot in the arm 1 time. The one who is in surgery in critical condition, that deputy was shot twice, once in the abdomen and once in the arm. The Lake County Sheriff's representative who was here did not have any information for us on that third deputy who was reportedly not brought to this hospital. So right now you can see that there is law enforcement out in front of the emergency room here at HCA Florida Lake Monroe. This is a common thing when there is a high-profile incident. I remember a couple of years ago when we had a shooting at Seminole High School. They shut off this road in front of the emergency room just for security purposes. They don't know if there is a continued threat to these deputies. It's just best to keep it under control. So that's why you're seeing the law enforcement presence here. On the outside, we did also see some deputies head into the emergency room, but that's the latest going on right now. Those 2 deputies, one in stable condition, one in critical condition, as that scene continues to unfold up there in Lake County. Lisa?
Yeah, and Mike, can you just repeat, I apologize, the injuries that the person from the Lake County Sheriff's Office you spoke with told you about with those 2 deputies who are at the hospital there?
So again, there's one deputy who is stable, who was shot in the arm 1 time, and then another deputy who is in critical condition in surgery. That deputy, we're told, was shot twice, once in the abdomen and once in the arm. And no word from law enforcement officials out here about the third deputy who was shot during tonight's incident.
All right, and again, as you noted, law enforcement there, securing the hospital, making sure that there is no more threat to those deputies or the people inside the hospital there. We know you're going to be standing out there throughout the evening, throughout the night tonight, and keeping an eye on what's happening out there as we continue to see more people from the Lake County Sheriff's Office arrive there, potentially family members, friends of those officers showing up and praying for them and hoping for the very best. Again, as he just gave us that update, 2 officers there, one in stable condition, so that sounds optimistic. Another one in critical condition in surgery right now, shot in the arm and in the abdomen.
All right, so we are continuing to gather some more information. As you just saw, this is a very fluid situation. Mike got brand new information. We brought that right to you. As we continue to get some new information tonight, we'll bring it right to you. But to reiterate, 3 deputies now have been shot. If you're just now joining us in Lake County, Mike just gave us an update on 2 of them. We don't know about the third deputy who we're being told is still at the scene.
Right.
I don't know what that tells you. I don't know. But
we do know that deputy was injured. We do have one of our photojournalists is on the scene, Jim Kavanaugh. He works in our investigative unit. He is out there right now. He spoke with a man who lives in the neighborhood, Dallas Tyler, and this is what Dallas said to Jim earlier tonight.
Ate dinner around that 9:30, 10 o'clock. It's just, I know what gunshots sound like, but it sounds like fireworks.
Yeah.
And I got the family in the house. Kids are safe, wife safe, doors are locked. And, you know, we just got protected and, you know, we're ready if we need to.
When did you first realize there was something wrong?
When I seen something on Facebook about a couple of cops going down the road. And on the way home, we actually seen a deputy sent down the road. And then we started hearing a lot of sirens and stuff, and it just went on from there.
Obviously, just terrifying for the people who live in that area. Again, 9:30 at night, it's dark out there, it's quiet. This is a rural area, and all of a sudden, Friday night, you hear multiple rounds of gunfire.
And it seems like for the last 2 hours, there's been repeated gunfire. It
That's
hasn't
right.
really
It hasn't
stopped.
stopped.
It's been continuous gunfire, live rounds being fired. That's what Catherine Silver reported just moments ago. We're going to go back out to Catherine now for a little bit more information. What can you tell us, Catherine? What's the latest?
Hi, Justin and Lisa. We have been working to get you guys some more information about how that third deputy is doing. And I was just told by the county spokesperson, this is a spokesperson for Lake County, who's acting as a liaison for the sheriff's office tonight. She told me that third deputy has now been transported to that same hospital in Sanford near Lake Monroe, that HCA facility. We don't know the condition of that deputy, but the spokesperson did share with me that the deputy was airlifted to that hospital, so that does give us some insight. I told you before how we learned that there was 2 calls that came in from Brookside Drive back to back tonight. I can share some more information about those calls. The first came in at 9:05 tonight. The first deputy was transported around 9:24, and then the second deputy transported around 9:35. And once again, we just learned that that third deputy has now been airlifted to that same hospital in Sanford, HCA, Lake Monroe. Here at this roadblock near County Road 439 and Mill Creek Road, it continues to be a similar scene, still very active. We've seen multiple law enforcement cars continuing to pass by the vehicles, and the crime tape here, who they're letting get closer to Brookside Drive, which is about a mile away from this intersection. We'll keep working to get more information from all of you as they work to secure that scene on Brookside Drive tonight. And as soon as we have that, we'll share it with you. Guys.
Yeah, and Catherine, we were with you earlier when we heard that chopper arrived at the scene, and we haven't been hearing a lot of helicopters, which is unusual in a situation like this, because typically you even have the sheriff's office helicopter up above, potentially looking for a suspect. Can you go over that timeline again for us, again, when they first got these calls and when the first 2 deputies and then the third deputy were transported to the hospital?
Yeah, absolutely. I know you have been talking to that man who lives near Brookside Drive tonight on the phone. He mentioned he heard a lot of action around 9:30, but I did learn from the county spokesperson that the first call did come in around 9:05. The first deputy was transported at 9:24, so about 20 minutes later, and then the second deputy transported at 9:35, 10 minutes after that first deputy. We were told it has been an active scene throughout the night. There is still live gunfire happening there. And then we heard that that third deputy, who we have been waiting to hear about the condition of, has been airlifted to that hospital in Sanford.
And Catherine, did they give you insight as to when the initial call for help was made on Brookside Drive? Because we understand these deputies were responding to a domestic violence situation. Do we know approximately what time they were called out to the scene to begin with?
I've asked that question, and as soon as I get an answer, I'll share it with you, Lisa. But again, that first call that we know of for help was at 9:05
from a
tonight
deputy
here in Lake County.
Okay, piecing together exactly the chain of events that took place tonight leading up to this situation. Catherine Silver, you go ahead.
No, thank you, Catherine, for the update. What we don't know is what is going on behind the scenes. What is happening? Is this a suspect who's on the run, barricaded? We don't know the circumstances on that front and what they're dealing with. Obviously, it's hard to get that information to us when it's active like this and live rounds are being fired.
Well, we did speak with that neighbor earlier tonight, Jim Ironhorse, who lives right across the street from where all of this first happened. And he is a firearms expert. He could tell us. He's on the phone with us right now, still standing by. Jim, thank you so much for sticking around with us. We just got a bit of an update from Catherine Silver in terms of the timing of when all of this transpired. We understand that there was a call for help from a deputy at around 9:05 tonight, and then the first deputy was transported around 9:24, and that's about the time around 9 o'clock when you said you heard approximately 12 to 14 gunshots from a 9mm handgun, followed by multiple rounds of automatic fire.
That's correct.
And so since then, you have continued to hear gunfire in that very rural area. You mentioned earlier you live on 7 acres, but across the street from you on Brookside Drive, there are more homes. Any idea about how many homes are over there?
Oh, I can count 1, 2. There's at least 15.
At least 15. But on your side of the street, there are hardly any homes.
Right, they're mostly acreage lots.
Okay, and since then, over the next 2 to 3 hours now, you have continued to hear gunfire, but what's concerning is we do know that this is an unsecure scene. They appear to still be looking for a suspect or multiple people, and you're hearing gunfire coming from different areas out there tonight.
That's correct. The last gunfire was when I was talking to you the last time.
Okay, so that's
Maybe
an update.
Here come more cops.
Maybe 15 to 20 minutes ago.
And then have you seen them continue to move north? I know that's what we talked about a little bit earlier. Probably about.
Here goes this. Two ambulances went in. One came out. The second one is just coming out now, followed by a police car.
Okay,
so that was
two
two
ambulances
ambulances
are
and a
now
police car.
leaving, followed by a police car.
One left about an hour ago.
Okay.
That's the second one. He's just left now.
And the first
There's
one
still
that
a
was
fire engine back there.
the first one that left, was it being followed by a police car?
Absolutely, yes, ma'am.
And then the second one that left was also being followed by a police car.
This one, yes, ma'am.
And those just left within recently.
You heard the sirens.
Okay, so within the past 5 to 10 minutes, 2 ambulances left the scene. And we do see, I just want to give you an idea of what we're looking at on TV right now. We are looking at live pictures from outside the hospital in Sanford, where we can see police continue to gather there. But that is interesting to note that 2 ambulances just left within the last 5 to 10 minutes, followed by, and we do now see the live pictures from where Catherine is, she is further away from the scene from where you are, but we can see those ambulances going by now.
She's up on Mill Creek.
Yes, yeah, that's where they are keeping the reporters. You are much closer to where all of this is happening. And
100 yards away.
Give us a sense of the response right now, if you could, Jim. Has it slowed
decreased?
down? What can you tell us just in the last couple of minutes?
It seems to be moving north,
still.
where the original shooting took place. But
Okay.
there's still a strong police presence
Okay.
directly across the street here on Brookside.
But you're not hearing any more gunfire.
Oh, ma'am.
Does it appear to you like police are still out there actively looking for someone?
Yes, there's still a couple standing across the street there, guns drawn.
Okay.
Just to reiterate as well, Mike DeForest, he reported just a few moments ago that we have an update on how those deputies are doing, or at least their injuries are concerned. One deputy is stable right now. That deputy was shot in the arm, we're being told. Let's actually go right out to Mike, live at Lake Monroe Hospital in Sanford, where the third deputy, we're being told, is now being transported. Mike.
And I know you are hearing that report from the other scene. We don't know specifically that it's that deputy, or at least I cannot confirm that here. But what I can tell you is that we were just told by Seminole County Sheriff's deputies, we're at a hospital in Seminole County, we were just told to stand back where we are here because a helicopter is about to arrive. Now, I'll admit I'm not exactly familiar with where the helipad is here at HCA Lake Monroe, but the deputies indicated that it was probably coming in fairly soon. So we're on standby here. As you just mentioned, Justin, we know that 2 of the deputies who were shot were brought here to the hospital in Lake Monroe in Sanford. One of them in stable condition, the other in critical condition. The one who is in stable condition, we're told, was shot in the arm. The other deputy, who is in critical condition, currently undergoing surgery right now, was shot in the abdomen. And I believe, I just lost my notes here, but I believe he was shot in the abdomen and in the arm. That's the deputy who's in critical condition in surgery right now. You can see there is a little bit more law enforcement activity and medical activity. Now, we don't know what this ambulance is backing out here for. This is, I wouldn't say the busiest hospital in the area, but they have a lot of activity. So this could be unrelated. But on the flip side, obviously a big law enforcement presence here with deputies blocking off the road on both sides of the emergency room here. That is a common occurrence when there's a high-profile event, such as a law enforcement officer who's been wounded and brought to the hospital, or really any kind of high-profile incident. They do it just out out of a sense of precaution here. So we do have this ambulance leaving, and I just don't know whether it is related to this matter or not. Presumably not. But we do see what looked to be deputies standing out right in front of the emergency room, and I think one of them was pointing to the sky, and we're just waiting to see. I keep seeing lights in the sky as if it could be the helicopter arriving here, but we don't know for sure. So we're just kind of standing by here waiting for answers as much as all you folks are right now. This is anytime we have these breaking situations sadly involving law enforcement shootings, it takes a while to get the accurate information, and so we're just patiently waiting for that information right now. The most important thing is that these law enforcement officers are being cared for inside the hospital, and we know they're getting great care. And the good news is at least one of those deputies in stable condition, the other in surgery right now. We do not know the condition of that third deputy. That was one piece of information we weren't able to find out from the Lake County Sheriff's representatives. I'm being told, are we able to see something coming in, do you think? I'm not able to see what you're seeing on TV, but we understand that it's possible that that helicopter may be coming in now. So I wanted to see where the helipad is here. Typically, they're on top of hospitals. If you've ever been out to HCA, Florida, here at Lake Monroe, it's a little bit smaller hospital in terms of, I think it's only 1 or 2 stories, and so it's not one of the typical high-rise hospitals that usually has the helipad on the roof. So I got to admit, I don't know where it's going to land when it arrives here and what they will do to transport whoever's being brought. Again, I believe it was my colleague Catherine Silver who was reporting that it is that third deputy who we do not know the condition of right now. And we also don't know why that deputy was not immediately brought here versus the other 2. That could potentially be because that deputy was in a difficult position to reach or was receiving medical care. We just don't know. We don't want to speculate on that. Right. So we're going to just be standing by. I'm going to toss it back to you, but keep an eye on our video. And when we see that helicopter come in, we'll show you what's happening with that.
Will do, Mike. Absolutely. Just for reference, though, if you're wondering at home why this hospital, it's in Lake Mary, it's 26 miles away from that scene. It is a level 2 trauma center. If you're unfamiliar with a level 2 trauma center is, they have a surgeon on staff at the hospital 24/7. It is probably the only hospital, it's probably the closest hospital to that scene that is a level 2 trauma center.
And of course, the first 2 deputies that were transported by ambulance. So that was perhaps the closest one to that scene. Besides, oftentimes, unfortunately, when we have had officer-involved shootings, many of those law enforcement officers have been taken to Orlando Regional Medical Center or somewhere in the city of Orlando, but that perhaps was the closest one and could provide the best care for them as quickly as possible. So again, if you're just now joining us, breaking news tonight at around 9 o'clock, we understand that Lake County deputies were called to a scene involving some type of domestic violence situation. After that, we know that at least 3 Lake County deputies were shot. 2 of them were taken to the hospital around 9:25 and then again around 9:35 via ambulance. One of them was transported around 11:35 via an air ambulance, a chopper, and we could actually hear that chopper flying above News 6's Catherine Silver as she was giving us a live report at around 11:20 tonight. She has been out there on the scene, and this is another live look at the hospital in Sanford as they wait for that helicopter to arrive there to take that third deputy there to the hospital. And we have been talking with neighbors in the area tonight who have described the scene for us as being a very quiet, very remote, very dark area. We've been speaking with Mr. Jim Ironhorse, who lives across the street from where all of this happened. He happens to live on 7 acres. He says on the particular street where this happened, Brookside Drive, there are approximately 15 homes. He immediately recognized the gunfire. He's a firearms expert. He said he heard more than a dozen rounds go off from a 9mm handgun, followed by multiple rounds from an automatic fire. He described it. He heard a rifle earlier tonight. He heard gunfire for the next really about 2.5 hours.
And it continues.
And yes, it has, but he says he hasn't heard any in the last 10 to 20 minutes. And it's also been in the last 10 minutes when we last spoke with him that he saw 2 ambulances leaving Brookside Drive, being followed out of that area by a deputy. You can see another ambulance. It looks like this one is going in to Brookside Drive, but the other two were being followed by a deputy. And you have to imagine if those ambulances, again, we don't want to speculate, but if those ambulances are leaving that area being followed by a law enforcement officer, that there's someone in there who they are treating.
Absolutely. You have to imagine that. The scene continues to be very active, though, and a very fluid situation. We do have Catherine Silver standing by live at the scene right now. Catherine, do you have any other information? What have you been seeing? Because we kind of take your camera every once in a while. We don't have the eyes on the ground.
And we've been seeing ambulances go in.
Right.
We've been seeing fire trucks go in. We've seen 2 ambulances go out. What is the latest on that?
Yeah, I had just stepped out from in front of the camera so we could watch one of those Lake County EMS ambulances go in closer to Brookside Drive tonight. I just had lights on, no sirens, but I would say around midnight, so just minutes after you all spoke with Mr. Ironhorse on the phone, and he told you that he saw 2 ambulances that were leaving Brookside Drive. We saw both of those ambulances with escorts leaving here at Mill Creek Road and County Road 439 tonight. Now, once again, this is where that roadblock is, where they've been keeping us at a safe distance, about a mile away from Brookside Drive. 2 deputies here with the Lake County Sheriff's Office have certainly been manning this roadblock tonight, and we have seen constant activity of those law enforcement agencies, with many different agencies, these vehicles leaving and also entering that scene tonight. It has remained active since we first got here, right around 11 o'clock. And as I look behind me in the distance, I do see also more lights in that distance. But beyond that, there is not much that we can gain from this vantage point, because again, they are trying to keep us at a safe distance away from that scene that they told us was unsecure. So we're working to get more information for you. I'm told once they do secure the scene and hopefully have some sort of conclusion to this tonight, that they'll be able to share more information with us so that we can share that with you and let you know what led up to this and what happened on Brookside Drive, where we know those 3 deputies were shot while doing their job.
But again, Catherine, at this point, we still do not know yet whether anyone has been taken into custody with this, how many people they're looking for. So it could be some time before this is resolved.
Absolutely. And when I spoke with a spokesperson for Lake County tonight, she told me to anticipate that this would probably be a long night, because first and foremost, they want to make sure that that scene is secure, that it is safe, no one else gets hurt tonight, and then they'll be able to hopefully share more information with us. We are certainly asking those questions, and we hope to have answers for you as soon as we can, Lisa.
In terms of gunshots and active gunfire that's still taking place, have you heard anything recently? Again, we were speaking with that neighbor who said he heard it from basically in the early 9 o'clock hour, 9:30-ish, up until about 11:30, 11:40-ish. Have you heard any sort of gunfire out there since then?
At this location, we're so far away from that scene that any sound of gunshots have been extremely faint. I have not heard any recently. I did speak with the county spokesperson who told me that there was live gunfire at that scene. After she gave me that update tonight, I spoke with her again, and she had told me that that 3rd deputy had since been airlifted to the hospital in Sanford. And since then, I haven't heard any active gunfire, but I'm not close enough to that scene to really say for certain whether or not that is finished or not, Lisa.
Yeah, and we are certainly seeing a lot of movement out there in terms of vehicles driving behind you. And it looks like most of those are law enforcement vehicles. Are you seeing people who live in that area driving over there? Because from time to time, when something like this happens, you know, people want to go and check it out for themselves. Are you seeing neighbors coming out and asking what's going on or fearful about what's happening in their neighborhood?
Of course, as soon as we got here, people see that we are with the media and they start asking us questions. A woman had walked right up to me right as I opened my car door tonight and asked me what's going on. I shared with her what little information we had at that point because it was so early on. It was around 11 o'clock at night. There has been few people who have been, oh, here's another, I'm going to step out of the way so you can see this Lake County EMS ambulance leaving that scene, leaving Brookside Drive. No lights or sirens on, but it is leaving. And also, you mentioned how people who live here have also been in this area. I can actually show you right at the stop sign here at Mill Creek Road and County Road 439. There's been a crew that's kind of been sitting by this crime tape tonight. They're certainly curious about what is happening at Brookside Drive. They care about these deputies. They care about all of the law enforcement agencies who are out here doing their jobs tonight, and they want the latest information. So we've been watching them as they are watching that scene, trying to get any new piece of information that we can share with them and also with all of you.
Absolutely. Obviously, everyone in that community very concerned for their own security, but also for those 3 deputies who were wounded tonight doing their job. We spoke with Trooper Steve earlier talking about when you're called out to a situation like that, obviously, you never know what to expect, what's it going to be like, and then from there, just trying to respond. And as we've seen, as the hours have gone on, more and more law enforcement agencies responding, trying to secure the area, and it's very dark, very difficult circumstances,
Right.
as you can imagine.
It's going on 3 hours of this being an active scene from the first call till now. It's about 3 hours, and I know Catherine is a little bit of a distance away, quite a ways away from where a lot of this is happening, but we did have a chance earlier tonight to have a really interesting conversation with someone who lives and he was watching this sort of unfold from his property. Here's some of what he told us earlier tonight. This is Jim Ironhorse.
He's the man who we were talking about with Catherine,
Right.
who heard that gunfire. He's a firearms expert. He lives right across the street from Brookside Drive. He says on his side of the street, it's basically just lots of wide open land. He lives on 7 acres, but across the street where this happened, there are 15 homes, and he could continue throughout the night to hear gunfire coming from that side of the street and then different areas where there were more homes. Let's listen to hear what he had to say.
It sounded to me, I would say about 12 to 14 rounds of 9mm, followed by multiple fully automatic fire.
And just to be clear, to reiterate, they're moving. Deputies are moving up and down. It's not a stationary scene. So, for instance, it doesn't seem, from your standpoint, sir, that anyone is like holed up inside of a house or anything like that. It seems to you that deputies have been moving pretty frequently, and the gunfire has been changing as well.
It looks like they're moving north right now. All the vehicles that were just in my driveway are now headed northbound.
And what is north? Are more homes, more land? What's north?
More homes.
More homes.
More homes on the right-hand side, more acreage on the left-hand side.
And so obviously when you hear that that scene is moving more north toward more homes, very concerning, especially for the people who live out there.
Absolutely. We continue to gather some more information. We have Mike DeForest at the hospital. We have Catherine Silver on the scene. We know that 3 deputies have now been transported. We don't know the condition of one, but we do know that one of the deputies is in critical condition, shot in the abdomen and in the arm. The other deputy is stable, shot in the arm. We're still waiting on getting some more updates on their condition, as well as an update on a potential suspects. We don't know, and how that scene is, if it's still very much an active scene, and what people in that neighborhood should be doing right now. I mean, you have to imagine that people are at home watching this at 12:21 in the morning, wondering what's going on out there. They're not being told. much because they're trying to secure this
The
scene.
officers are busy just trying to secure the scene
Exactly.
and figuring out who was responsible for this and making sure that threat is no longer a threat to the community. And so, yeah, it's very dark out there. We heard from Trooper Steve earlier. He said his advice to people, stay inside, lock your doors. You know, you could turn on the TV and follow along from there, but you just don't know in an active situation like that, as we heard from Mr. Ironhorse saying that he could hear gunfire coming from different areas, and seeing obviously movement, a lot of movement from law enforcement out in that area. We do know that one officer who was in critical condition, shot both in the abdomen and in the arm, is in surgery right now. And as you mentioned, our Mike DeForest is out there waiting for updates, and we are waiting for that air ambulance to arrive, who was transporting the third deputy from the scene. That chopper arrived, we know, around 11:20ish, 11:30 tonight.
Right. To
and
go
then
over
was
those
making
calls
its
too,
way.
I think the timing on this is important. So the first call came in 9:05.
As an officer being hurt is what we understand.
We don't know about the domestic call that sort of prompted.
Obviously,
the
you have to
response.
assume it happened before then,
Sure.
approximately, who knows, 8:45.
So the call came in about about deputies being injured at 9:05. 9:24, the first one was transported. So 2 hours ago. 9:35, the second deputy transported, and around
3 hours ago now.
3 hours ago. Yeah, 3 hours ago now. And then 11:55, the third deputy was transported. Airlifted to the hospital.
And you know, we keep reiterating how remote and rural this is. So when an officer calls for help at 9:05, it's going to take a while, you know, for an ambulance, for fire engines to get to that scene. We're hearing that there are a lot of dirt roads out there, and a lot of people living, you know, on acreage. And so to be able to get there, obviously stabilize the deputy and then transport them, it took some time.
And get your bearings too. I mean, we're not talking about street lights or a well-lit area. This is a very rural part of Lake County.
And then that
close
drive,
to
the drive then to the hospital, some 26 miles away, being the closest trauma center, we believe, to that scene. And you were saying earlier, it's a level two trauma center, which means that they do have a surgeon on staff 24/7. So that's where they took those two deputies, and now the third deputy was being airlifted there. We know Mike DeForest has been out there. He has been watching as more officers have been arriving throughout the night. As he pointed out, they want to secure that scene, make sure there is no additional threat to any of the officers who are there or any of the staff and personnel on scene there. And he was speaking with Lake County officials earlier tonight, who was giving him that update on the deputies. And this is such a hard thing, and we hear this anytime there is a situation like this when an officer has been shot. These are their friends. These are their coworkers. These are the people who they see day in and day out and work in some of the most stressful situations with, and they're brothers and sisters. And we know that they are aching as much as they continue to have to work through the night and work this situation. Our Trooper Steve is joining us once again on the phone. Steve, if you can hear us, we appreciate you being with us. We know that this is kind of obviously awful situation. We had to wake you up, I think, to unfortunately break this news to you as you were preparing to come into work a few hours from now. But we're just talking about the brotherhood and the sisterhood that law enforcement has. And here you see all of these Lake County deputies out there. Not the biggest force in Central Florida, but I imagine they're all hands on deck tonight as they continue to try and secure that neighborhood, but also have so much concern for their fellow officers.
You know what, Lisa, you're 100% right. And it's the one career field of law enforcement that we spend more time with our coworkers than what we do with our direct family. And when we come to work, it's not to diminish anyone's career or their path, but it's not like you're coming in and pushing in paperwork. It's not like you're prepping food. These are men and women who are coming in and sacrificing their lives every single day with people that they're not going home with. And I think that is something to dial home a little bit for people to understand when they go, why is the response so large? This is the largest family that ever existed in the entire country, and that is the law enforcement family. So when one goes down, they all go down. And when one needs help, everyone shows up to help. And that's why you see such a large response, even if the scene is secure. What you're going to begin to see is law enforcement officers, marked vehicles begin to show up at the hospital, possibly even continue to show up at the scene just for support, because that's what we do. We want to be present. We want to be there because that's who we are. And at the end of the day, there's no one that really understands this job other than anybody who's put a vest and a gun on to go to work, not knowing if they're going to go back to their family. We're talking multiple deputies here that did go to night shift today, responded to a domestic violence situation in order to hopefully just let a family get back to normalcy and have law enforcement intervene and maybe help. And now someone within there portrayed violence on our local law enforcement. And no matter what your opinion is of law enforcement, they don't care who you are. They don't care what you do. When you call for help, they're going to show up. And Lake County has a very close-knit law enforcement community. They have an amazing sheriff's office, and yet so many municipalities. And you're going to have such a response. You're going to have an outpouring response from other attaching counties. You got to think, who's attached to Lake County? We've got the Orange County Sheriff's Office, the Seminole County Sheriff's Office, two extreme full-service law enforcement agencies that when they need help, everyone is there for them. And I can bet you that they're doing the exact same thing. So you're going to see a continued response on this team probably throughout the remainder of the night, just because you did have an attempted murder take place out here on law enforcement officers. You're going to have to recreate this scene from start to finish from people who weren't even there using evidence. And then they need to make sure that that scene is secure. From what I understand right now, the deputies have been transported to multiple hospitals, like you guys have said. I do have a source that has indicated one is already in surgery to hopefully remedy whatever injuries have been portrayed on these deputies. But so what you guys have been talking, and I was able to be on the phone for a second while you guys were kind of really describing the situation here. It's not fun. It's nighttime. That causes nerves. You can't see everything. You need more resources. And a lot of people would think, well, wow, what an overwhelming response. But I'm sorry, you counter violence with violence. And when you have an act of violence on law enforcement, when these deputies were merely there to respond to stop whatever was happening, this is what you see. And we can probably expect this throughout the night. We'll see that presence at the hospital. And I really hope and pray that this community comes together and prays for these deputies. And hopefully we'll hear from the sheriff soon.
Well, unfortunately, we've seen it before. The Central Florida community does rally around law enforcement officers and agencies in times like these. But you talk about the size of the response and how large it is. But the fact of the matter is, when you have a suspect or potentially multiple suspects who are willing to open fire on multiple law enforcement officers and are then on the run, I mean, that is a huge threat to the community. And they're going to be out there until they find that threat.
Well, you hit the nail on the head, Lisa. Think about this. If they're willing to take these acts of violence on law enforcement officers, which they know are armed, that are trained, and that are there to truly intercept or neutralize any type of threat, what are they willing to do to the average community member? So that is the mentality of law enforcement, to overwhelm somebody who is willing to do harm. And if they were in your community, I would hope that everyone would want to see this type of response. But Lisa, that is ultimately why we're seeing this type of response. You want to overwhelm anybody with any idea. Are they trying to get out of the area? These perimeters are huge. You've got deputies and officers and troopers out there. I've spoken to a few Orange County deputies who knew about this call coming out. I know troopers are aware. Just recently, I was with the executive director of the Florida Highway Patrol, and they are aware of what's going on in Lake County. So the entire state is aware of what's happening right now. And that's what happens. That blue alert goes out. We've talked about the different alerts that the state of Florida has, whether it's a silver or amber alert, but this would be a blue alert situation where there is an active threat to not only the community, but law enforcement. and everyone needs to know about it.
All right, Trooper Steve, hang tight. We just want to come back out and give folks the latest on what we know so far. Earlier tonight, we have learned that 3 Lake County deputies were shot responding to a domestic violence call. We don't know exactly the time of that first call, but we do know around 9 o'clock this evening, the first call came in about deputies being hurt. They were then transported in the minutes that followed. All 3 were being told are at HCA Lake Monroe Hospital in Sanford. 1 is in critical condition, in surgery. 1 is stable. We don't know the condition of the other, but it sounds like that deputy also in bad shape. And we have been continuing to follow the latest from the ground. It has been a very active scene. We don't know anything about a suspect. We know the scene is unsecure, according to the sheriff's office, and that's why the response has been this large. You have SWAT on scene, and it's just a crazy situation, a lot of unknown, very fluid. We have law enforcement at the hospital. We have tons of law enforcement at the scene as well. A neighborhood in a rural part of Lake County, kind of in Eustis, near Eustis. A lot of land out there, but a lot of single-family homes as well. A subdivision is where we're being told this happened and where a lot of the response has been as deputies and law enforcement have been trying to track down that suspect and to secure the scene.
Yeah, Justin, as you mentioned, the first reports of this coming in about 3.5 hours ago of 3 Lake County deputies being injured and being shot by a suspect or multiple suspects. We still have not gotten that confirmed. All of this happening in this rural part you're seeing on your screen right now, a map of Lake County. This is near State Road 44 and County Road 439, specifically gunfire erupting on Brookside Drive. We believe just before 9 o'clock tonight, the first call coming in that a deputy was hurt at around 9:05. And again, after that, those deputies have since been transported to the hospital. The first deputy transported at 9:24 to the hospital, and then again at 9:35, and then finally tonight at around 11:40, the third deputy was taken by chopper to the hospital in Sanford. Now, we have spoken with neighbors who've been out there tonight, including a man who lived right across the street from where all of this happened. He said he could hear gunfire around the 9 o'clock area. He heard approximately 12 to 14 gunshots coming from a 9mm handgun. He is a firearms expert, and he could immediately identify which firearms were being involved in this. He said it was followed by multiple automatic fire rounds. And then for the next 2.5 hours, he continued to hear gunshots in that area. Again, it is a very rural area. And what he also heard was gunshots coming from different parts of that area. It sounded like the scene was moving toward areas that had even more homes. So that was raising concerns. At this point, Lake County has not said whether they have anyone in custody, who they're looking for, other than earlier tonight telling us it is a very active and unsecure scene. We've been on the phone with Trooper Steve, who was advising people who live in that area to take precautions and stay inside. You are seeing an ambulance now outside.
I saw an arm go up as well.
Outside Sanford, the hospital there, where we have had live pictures all night, and it looks like someone is on the stretcher, potentially raising their arm. You can see law enforcement officers walking around. And that stretcher has come out of that ambulance all night. We have been watching ambulances go into that area near Brookside Drive and then leave that area.
We don't know who this individual is, just to be clear, but
That's right.
This is a live look at someone being taken out of the hospital, brought inside HCA Lake Monroe in Sanford. Not too quickly,
Right.
It appears.
We don't want to speculate.
We're not speculating, but okay, let's see.
You saw it there live, someone coming out of an ambulance. Again, all night, we have been seeing ambulances come and go from that scene on Brookside Drive. And the reports that we have received is that earlier tonight at approximately around 9 o'clock, 3 deputies were shot. We know that 2 of those deputies arrived at the hospital hours ago, and then another one was being taken there via a helicopter at approximately 11:30 tonight. So that is a new ambulance that has arrived on scene. Again, we don't know if it's coming from this shooting
Looks
scene
like
in Lake
another
County.
one there from the scene as well.
This is, yes, again, we're back. These are live pictures now back from the scene in Lake County. All night we have seen a lot of ambulances come and go.
Several.
We have seen one fire truck, and we, of course, have seen multiple law enforcement cruisers driving around that scene. Now, this is coming from our reporter, Catherine Silver, who is at the staging area, who is the law enforcement is keeping the media away from the active shooting location. This is near Mill Creek Road and County Road 439.
It's northeast Eustis.
Okay.
And Catherine, what have you been watching over the last couple of minutes?
Yeah, hi guys. You mentioned we've seen a lot of ambulances come and go, and just a minute ago, another ambulance with lights on just left this scene. It was not escorted like the previous two ambulances were that left this roadblock around midnight tonight. Both of those ambulances had escorts with lights and sirens. The ambulance that we just saw leave only had lights on, so it's unclear where their destination is and where they're headed tonight. What I can really show you from this scene is three certain things that we're looking at tonight. So the first is just this roadblock here at County Road 439 and Mill Creek Road. This is what we have been looking at from a safe distance, about a mile away from Brookside Drive, where they tell us that gunfire erupted tonight. So we have the deputies that are manning this roadblock here. In the distance further down County Road 439, I can see very faintly some more lights, some more law enforcement vehicles. And then also the third thing we can point out here for you is just the people that have come out to this scene, that have been standing by this stop sign, waiting to learn any new piece of information. Of course, they wanted to know how those three deputies were doing. We know two of them that were taken to the hospital in Sanford by ambulance, the first at 9:24 and the second at 9:35 with traumatic injuries. And again, that third deputy that we later learned was airlifted to the hospital tonight. They did not give us a clear indication of how that deputy is doing. We're certainly continuing to ask questions. We're hopeful that someone with the Lake County Sheriff's Office will be able to speak with us on camera tonight, answer our questions, so that we can give all of you an update as well, because there is still so much that we do not know about what happened here in Lake County tonight. We don't know what led up to this gunfire. We don't know really what happened at Brookside Drive beyond that initial domestic abuse call that we have heard about. And we also don't have any information about a potential suspect. Is there multiple suspects, and how is that suspect or suspects, how are they doing tonight? Those are all questions we're hoping that we can ask the Lake County Sheriff at some point, and as soon as we have more information, we'll share it with you. I'll send it back to you guys in studio.
All right, Catherine, we know you're going to stay out there and continue to work that scene for us. We do want to check in now with News 6's Mike DeForest, who has been outside the hospital in Sanford this evening, monitoring the situation there, watching law enforcement officers arrive there. And Mike, we just saw an ambulance pull up there, and I'm not sure if you could see what we were seeing, but we saw someone coming out of an ambulance on a stretcher and then going inside the hospital.
You got to keep in mind, Lisa, this hospital is open for business every day of the year, and people are coming and going. And right now we have no indication that that ambulance that you saw had anything to do with this shooting. We've got no confirmation of that. What we do know right now is that there are only two deputies here. Those two deputies, one in stable condition who was shot in the arm, the other in critical condition undergoing surgery after being shot in the arm and the abdomen. Originally, we were told a third deputy was en route to this hospital via helicopter. In fact, we had some of these police officers out here tell us to stand back because the helicopter was going to be landing. We were actually looking at some flight apps where you could see the movement of helicopters, and it looked like there potentially was a helicopter headed to this hospital, HCA in Sanford, but it looks like that helicopter may have gotten diverted up to Advent Health Waterman up in Lake County. We don't know for sure again, but again, we had been talking about the fact that it was possible that the third deputy was being brought here. So far, that has not happened that we know of, and all we know of are those two deputies who are here, who are being cared for. We saw a little bit of a frantic scene a while ago where several other law enforcement officers showed up, not just Lake County officers and, of course, Seminole County deputies. This is Seminole County. We're in Sanford where this hospital is located, but we even saw an Orange County deputy, and that's typical in these type of situations where law enforcement from all over comes in to aid because these emergency responders are stretched thin, particularly the Lake County deputies who are up there dealing with their issues with trying to find this shooter. At least they've got some other help from neighboring agencies to help secure the hospital here and just help out in any way they can. I was actually talking to a Lake County deputy out here a short time ago, and it reminded me, I can't believe it's been this long, 19 years ago, kind of a chilling coincidence. It was 3 Lake County deputies who were responding to a domestic violence incident, reportedly something similar to this, and those 3 deputies were ambushed. A big shooting. One of the deputies, Wayne Kester, was killed. Another was shot, survived. A third one got away. I think the gunman in that case, he was caught and maybe life in prison right now. But 19 years ago, as you heard Trooper Steve Montiero talking about, just any time that these law enforcement officers go into these situations, they never know what they're going to expect. Even a domestic violence call like we reportedly saw tonight, and it was just kind of chilling that 19 years ago, 3 Lake County deputies also encountered trouble out there, and I know everybody's pulling for those 3 deputies tonight who were reportedly shot wounded in this situation, and we're just standing by waiting for an update on their condition. What we do know the conditions of are the 2 deputies here right now. Again, one in stable condition, shot in the arm, the other in surgery with wounds to the abdomen and the arm in critical condition. Lisa and Justin.
Mike DeForest, thank you. And interesting that you mentioned Deputy Wayne Kester, because we've been speaking tonight with a man named Jim Ironhorse who lives in that area. And he said he has never seen anything like this. He's lived there for decades. The last time he saw something like this is when that very incident happened 19 years ago. And I think he is still on the line with us. Mr. Ironhorse, are you there?
Yes, ma'am.
So we were just hearing from our reporter, Mike DeForest, who is outside the hospital in Sanford, talking about the last time something similar to this happened in Lake County 19 years ago. And you were living in that same area and, were there when that happened. And now you're seeing this unfold tonight.
Yes, ma'am.
So,
it happens.
And for our viewers who are just now joining us, tell our viewers exactly where you live and what you are seeing around you right now.
I live on 7 acres out here off of 439. It's a very rural area. At 9 o'clock, there was some unusual gunfire, some 9mm rounds, followed by automatic gunfire, and then the deputies started showing up. Instead, there's been gunfire in 2 different locations. There's still a heavy police presence out here.
So that has not slowed?
No, sir.
Okay.
When we were talking to you earlier tonight, as we were talking to you live on the air, you were stopping us because you kept hearing gunshots and more gunshots, and then it was moving from different locations, all kind of within the same vicinity. We're talking, about an area that is very rural, Brookside Drive, which is right across 439 from your street, which is Brendanshire Lane. But you were saying it sounded like there was gunfire coming from, one part of that area, and then you heard gunfire elsewhere. And up until about 11:45, you were hearing that. When was the last time you heard gunfire?
The last time we talked.
Okay, so it's been about an hour now.
Yes, ma'am.
And we continue to see live pictures, and we're looking at more live pictures, or this is video from earlier tonight. All night, though, we have seen ambulances come and go from that scene. Are you able to see ambulances outside your house? I know you were sitting on your front porch earlier looking at this. Do you see ambulances out there right now?
Not right now. The last one left here about 10 minutes ago.
Are you still in contact with some of your neighbors, and what's the sense? Give me an overall sense of what the community is feeling right now based on what you've been hearing from some of those neighbors.
I've spoken with Wanda across the street a couple of times. She's secure. Her house is completely surrounded by deputies.
And earlier I asked you if any deputies had knocked on your door or any law enforcement officer to tell you about what was happening and give you any advice. Have you heard from any law enforcement officers out there tonight?
No, we have not. They have more better things to do. I'm sure they can see us sitting up here.
And does it appear like they are still searching for someone, or does it seem like things are quieting down out there?
No, it's pretty much still an active scene. I think they're still looking.
And just for people who aren't familiar with this, we've tried to set the scene. You live on 7 acres across that county road. There is Brookside Drive, and there you believe are approximately 15 homes. Is that a new subdivision?
No, these homes have all been here for quite a while.
Do you have any?
The only subdivision around here would be the trailer parks down the road a little bit called Orlando Hills.
And that's not where this happened?
No,
Okay.
I don't believe so. I believe it's one of the houses back behind, I don't know the name of the road back there. It's a dirt road.
And in the past, have you seen police or deputies respond to homes back there, or is it highly unusual to see any law enforcement activity?
Like I said, I haven't seen this kind of a law enforcement response since Wayne Kester was shot 19 years ago. Other than that, there's the occasional accident that happens out here, the occasional catch a speeder out here because it's a dead straightaway. And that's about it. It's really, again, it's a rural area.
It's a lot of nurseries, it seems
quiet.
like. Farms. That's what's out there, right? Mr. Ironhorse, you're talking about, you have foliage, you got nurseries, you have farms. Do you have any landmarks, if folks are unfamiliar with this area? What would be the closest landmark that might be familiar to someone who doesn't live where you live?
There are no landmarks out here.
There are no landmarks. Okay.
No, there are no landmarks out here. Again, it's a very rural area.
It's pretty close to the Ocala National Forest.
Yes.
One thing we've been talking about tonight, near the Ocala National Forest, there are some lakes out in that area. For officers who might be out there trying to find a suspect, I mean, it is so dark out there. And
yes, it is.
Yeah, and most people just aren't familiar with those, you described them, many dirt roads in that area.
That's absolutely true.
I was just looking.
It'd be a hard search if they get back behind that dirt road across the road. There is all forested.
Is that the Lake North Conservation Area?
Yep, that's all forested back there. As they get out in there, it's going to be really tough to get them out of there.
So what's next for you? You have been on your porch watching all of this unfold since 9 o'clock tonight. I mean, are you going to be able to get any sleep tonight as long as you see all of this happening right outside your front door?
No, ma'am. As long as this is going on, I'll be sitting right here.
Yeah.
Waiting for the updates.
And we know, obviously, Lake County Sheriffs, it's got to be all hands on deck right now. Have you seen a lot of law enforcement officers from other jurisdictions? We have to assume Florida Highway Patrol is out there.
Yes, they are. Those are the two agencies I can identify definitely out here. I think the one truck across the street is FWC.
Okay. And what about in terms of like SWAT teams? Have you seen any large vehicles that have?
Yes.
Yeah, you have. And are you?
Yes, they have been directly across the street. At one point, they were deployed. I heard them give a go, go, go order. That's when we heard the two shots. shortly after that. They seem to have moved north.
So just for reference, sir, I'm trying to remember. Okay, we've talked to you a few times. The last time you heard a gunshot was around what time?
About an hour ago.
About an hour ago.
Yeah.
Okay.
And after you heard that go, 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 then you heard activity in a different part of that area. And then
That was over by my neighbors' houses.
And then after that is when you also saw the 2 ambulances depart that area that were being followed by a law enforcement officer.
That's correct, ma'am.
And since then, you haven't heard any more gunfire.
No, ma'am.
And earlier tonight when we were talking to you, you said you could hear a lot of the officers kind of shouting to one another, talking to one another, because I have to assume in that area, sound travels pretty well. It's such a quiet area, and you could probably oftentimes hear what your neighbors are doing or saying. Are you hearing officers at this point?
Not right now. They seem to have all dispersed from where they were standing earlier.
Okay.
All right, Mr. Ironhorse, again, we really appreciate your insight on the lay of the land, what you've been seeing out there, and hang tight. Hopefully this can be resolved so you can get some shut-eye, and hopefully everything resolves in a decent manner. So thank you once again for bringing us your thoughts and your eyes from where you are. We cannot see we cannot see what you can see, so that's such valuable information. So thanks again. All right, as we've been telling you, we have 3 deputies who have been shot in Lake County. We know at least 2. We're not sure about the third one being transported, but we know at least 2 of those deputies are at Lake Monroe Hospital in Sanford, one of whom in surgery, the other stable. One is in critical condition, they're in surgery, one is stable, and we have Mike DeForest who has been out there, and throughout the night, more law enforcement presence has also shown up at that hospital. Do you have anything new for us, Mike? What can you tell us?
We continue to see waves of law enforcement coming in and out. I think just kind of protecting the scene here. It's a little bit quieter right now. Again, as you mentioned, there are 2 Lake County deputies being treated here at HCA Florida Lake Monroe Hospital. One of those was shot in the arm. He's in stable condition, we're told. The other deputy was shot in the arm and the abdomen. That is the deputy who's undergoing surgery in that building right now. This is a level 2 trauma center. You might be wondering, why are they sending these deputies from Lake County up near the Ocala National Forest to Sanford? Well, this level 2 trauma center, which has surgeons around the clock for any kind of emergency like this, actually services a very wide area. I think Sumter County, Orange County, Osceola County, certainly Seminole County where we're at, and Lake County. So we don't know the decisions were made, but they decided to bring those 2 deputies at least here. We were told a third one was going to be en route via a helicopter, and in fact we had some police officers here tell us because the helipad is just right over there, that that helicopter was going to be incoming. They had the lights on, and then some of us were watching on one of those flight tracker apps, and we could see what looked like a helicopter leaving the scene up there in where the shooting took place, and then it looked like that helicopter may have diverted over to Waterman Hospital in Eustis. I don't have that confirmed, but that's and then after that, we never saw a helicopter show up here, so we don't know the status or the location of that third deputy. All we know right now is there are the 2 deputies here at HCA Florida Lake Monroe, where we've had law enforcement standing by throughout the night, just providing security while the doctors inside trying to give those deputies the care that they need right now. Justin.
All right, Mike DeForest, we'll be checking back in with you throughout the night. We appreciate that update. As we continue to bring some new information. Again, this is a very remote part of Lake County. When you look at the map especially, you can really just see its green space. A few homes here and there, a lot of people with land, like Mr. Ironhorse has a lot of land. It's very remote, and it was really interesting to hear him say, you know, the farther they get to going to the east, where sort of that was kind of headed, they have a conservation area right there, Lake Norris Conservation Area. Again, we don't know the status of a suspect and where deputies are going and how that scene is coming along, whether it's secure right now, whether they're getting closer to securing that scene. We just don't know. But let's get out to Catherine Silver. She's at the scene, at least the closest vantage point that we can be. which is, I don't know, Catherine, can you give us an update on how far you are away from the actual presence of the bulk of law enforcement?
Yeah, Justin, we are here at the corner of County Road 439 and Mill Creek Road. You can see we just had a steady stream of vehicles start to leave from where the actual scene is, which is about a mile away, I would estimate, from where we are at this intersection. We've really been working to get more information as the hours and the minutes have gone on tonight. A lot of people certainly want to hear how these deputies are doing and also get answers about what happened here earlier tonight and what led up to all of this. I can give you a bit of insight into just what we've seen from this vantage point, and I would say within the last hour or so, we started to see a bit of a tone shift. And within the last couple of minutes, I saw one of those SWAT vehicles actually leave the scene and drive away. So that certainly seems to suggest, as we've been talking to Mr. Ironhorse on the phone tonight and getting his insight closer to that scene, that perhaps there's no more active gunfire. Hopefully we have some sort of conclusion, which once again just leaves us still with those answers those questions that we are working to get answers for you tonight as the hours go on. So as soon as we have more information, we will certainly share it both on air and online. We are hopeful that someone with the Lake County Sheriff's Office will be able to talk to us on camera today and tell us what happened here. We certainly have a lot of questions, as do all of you at home. We don't know about a suspect involved in all of this. All we know is that initial call that deputies were responding to tonight, some sort of domestic abuse call. What unfolded after that remains a mystery beyond those 3 deputies who we know were shot while doing their jobs in Lake County tonight. Guys?
Yeah, Catherine, as we were talking to Mr. Ironhorse, that is what we are all hoping, that since he has not heard any gunfire in at least the past hour, where he had been hearing it basically for 2.5 hours
Also, the
straight.
latest update we got, too. The newest update we got from law enforcement was about an hour ago after that deputy was airlifted. So
Right.
we haven't had much new information in the last hour.
Right. So it was about an hour ago that the gunfire was no longer being heard by the man who lives right in that area. And then that's also about the time that we saw 2 ambulances leave the area that were being followed by law enforcement. And we did see, 1 ambulance pull up outside the hospital in Sanford, and it said Lake County EMS on it. Again, we don't know if that person was connected to this at all, but that happened all approximately within the last hour. Of course, that coming approximately 3 hours after this initially began, which is around 9 o'clock. And that is when the first call came out around 9:05, as Catherine has been reporting, from a deputy saying that there was a deputy that was injured. And then it took about 25 minutes before that first deputy was transported to the hospital. You have to imagine, it took a minute for an ambulance to get to that very remote scene, stabilize the officer, and then get them loaded into the ambulance and then head toward the hospital from there. About 10 minutes later, the second deputy was transported to the hospital. And really from 9:30 on until about 11:30, it appeared to be a very active scene. And you kept seeing more and more law enforcement officers arrive. These are live pictures now coming into us from Sky 6.
Wow.
So this is giving us a bird's eye view of that scene out there, and you can see the police activity. This is a very, as we've been saying over and over again, remote, dark area. And when you see it lit up like that, you know that is a big presence. And the initial reports we were getting, I personally spoke with Lieutenant John Harrell with the Lake County Sheriff's Office, who's their public information officer, at about 10:10 tonight, asking him, what is the condition of the deputies? He did not know. He himself was just arriving on the scene. You can see Leesburg police now arriving there. He was just arriving on the scene at 10:10, trying to get an update on those deputies. I asked him at that time, who are you looking for? One suspect, multiple suspects. At that time, he did not know. And so you can see that.
So that was
it was
another
very
one.
active. Yeah, another
That was,
Leesburg.
that was Claremont. So we had these.
Right.
I'm correct me if I'm wrong, Lisa, but I believe these are leaving the scene, right? The scene is
It
a little
does
farther
appear,
down the road.
Yes, like we have been seeing these.
Mount Dora.
Exactly.
So clearly, we have a huge response with several agencies responding to this scene. And it appears their lights are not on. It
Right.
looks like they're leaving the scene, but we briefly had that Sky 6 view, and I just want to clear this up for viewers. A tough signal right now, so we're trying to get
There it is again.
There's the live look from the sky, Sky 6 up in the air, where you can see it is lit up like a Christmas tree out there. Just so much law enforcement presence. It's something when you get to see it. We've been hearing about it. When we talked to Mr. Ironhorse, he said upwards of 40,
He's on his front porch
45,
looking at this.
40, 45 law enforcement vehicles that he could see himself. But when you get to see it from this vantage point, it gives you a sense of just how large this
So,
response is.
Mr. Ironhorse, I think, are you still on the phone? Can you still hear us? All right, I'm not sure if he is still with us, but he did mention earlier that he saw SWAT, and now he doesn't see the SWAT vehicles that he saw earlier.
Something else striking about this image here, and we've been talking about this all night when we reference where this happened. Look how dark it is.
Right, and so as he was pointing out, it would be very easy for anyone to run into the woods.
Sure.
It's a heavily wooded area. A lot of these roads are dirt roads. And, again, we don't know if they were looking for one person or multiple people, but
What we did know is that scene was not secure, and that was their words. And I
Right.
think when I heard the conversation, when you were on the phone with the public information officer with Lake County, when this was still in the very early stages, we got the report about several deputies had been shot in
that
Lake
was
County.
at 10:10 tonight, and he didn't even know exactly how many had been shot.
Exactly. And at that point, what stuck with me, and I don't know if it stuck with you, was that he said this was an unsecure scene, because
Right.
often we don't hear that often. That tells us that, well, clearly there's a suspect on the run,
Yeah.
and they have not been able to locate that suspect, and it's just that's not something we often hear. And so when we hear something like that, it's a little striking. And this is why we have not been able to get a ton of information, because clearly they're tied up.
Right. And we were talking with Trooper Steve earlier tonight, talking about the brotherhood, the sisterhood, when 3 law enforcement officers are gunned down, and injured in a situation like this, that you immediately get a response from agencies, all the surrounding agencies. And it's not just because they care so deeply about their fellow law enforcement officers, but when you are facing a suspect or potentially multiple people who are willing to open fire on armed, trained officers, there and then run, there is a sense of desperation that suspect potentially has. They have potentially no fear, and talk about a threat to the community. And so that's why when earlier we heard Lieutenant Harrell say, this is unsecure. That was letting us know in the media that there is potentially someone out there as we go to the scene to try and bring information to our viewers, but also to the people who live in that area. Right. And Trooper Steve was talking about that, how important it is, if you do live in that area, to lock your doors, to take precautions, because if we don't know who they're looking for or how many people they're looking for, and these people are potentially armed, dangerous, and running from officers, you got to be careful.
It's not a heavily populated area, as we've been telling you, but you have to understand that these folks, you see the response like this, you're naturally going to want to see what's going on, or at least have an understanding of what's going on. And I know Catherine Silver also just spoke to a neighbor who lives around where this all happened, where 3 Lake County deputies have been shot. Listen to this.
What's your reaction to hearing that we have 3 deputies who protect this community who have been shot?
From my point of view, coming from the law enforcement side, my reaction was get down there. It's like if I was on duty or if I was going, to go out, if I have fellow officers who are down, I'm going.
Just from watching what's been happening at this scene, I mean, it's clear this is a huge law enforcement investigation that's happening tonight. What have you seen?
Mostly a lot of law enforcement coming in and out, and then the helicopter's really been tracking them, seeing what their patterns have been. So yeah.
Why is it important for you to be out here and to stay out here?
Because if I was in that situation, I know I'd want other law enforcement officers or anybody in general to come out here and show their support and show that, you know, what we're doing matters.
There's been several people in this neighborhood who have been out here and they have been watching and they have been standing by hoping to learn more. How does this community feel about the men and women who protect them every single day?
As far as I know, and I can tell you, people out here support them. They really do. They really care, especially the snowbirds that come down, because that's who they rely on. They rely on the law enforcement out here.
Just hoping for the best for them?
Yes, ma'am.
And that's what all of Central Florida is doing tonight, hoping for the best for those officers. Again, 2 of them transported at approximately 9:30 tonight to a level 2 trauma center in Sanford, which was about 26 miles from this scene. They were transported by ambulance, but being a level 2 trauma center, there was a surgeon on hand 24/7, and we do know, according to our Mike DeForest, who's been outside that hospital all night, one of them in stable condition, so we're hopeful that that means that they are okay. We understand that deputy was shot in the arm. The other officer, we understand, was shot in the abdomen and in the arm, undergoing surgery and in critical condition.
What's interesting about the video from the scene, as we've continued to watch some of the law enforcement leave the area in question, what has stuck out to me is that it is the police, the local city police. You've got Leesburg, Claremont. I just saw, I think, another different agency. I have not seen Lake County specifically leave, but the aide that responded to help them with this scene, it appears that they are leaving the scene.
And we're seeing some more cars coming down now as we continue to monitor these live pictures. And again, this is from the media staging area. This is where Lake County told all news reporters that they had to congregate because they wanted to keep the news media safe and not interfere with what was taking place. This is happening at County Road 439 and Mill Creek Road. Now, this is a little bit of a distance from where the actual shooting took place on Brookside Drive, which these are live pictures from that scene. It's just a short distance away. So it is a good sign to see law enforcement leaving and not still arriving on the scene, which is what we saw for several hours from about 10 o'clock until at least maybe midnight.
Right.
We kept seeing ambulances, fire engines, deputies all going into that area, and now it is nice to start seeing some of those people leaving, which we're hopeful is a sign that potentially the scene is secure. The threat is no longer there for the people who live in that community. I texted the public information officer with the Lake County Sheriff's Office, Lieutenant John Harrell, around 12:52. You can imagine he is very busy, asking him if the scene is secure. He has not replied to our texts. So we are still waiting for that update. And I know Catherine has been asking that same question to people on the scene there. Just waiting to get word that they have secured that area, that whoever is responsible for this is in custody, and that people can rest easy tonight.
And that's why we are still on the air right now. We just don't have much information, and we appreciate you sticking with us throughout this time. As it's really fluid, and when you don't have a lot of information, it can be pretty repetitive, but that's the nature of this. And I'm curious how things have been going, where those 2 deputies, at least 2 deputies have been being treated as well.
We're talking about those 2 deputies because we were live on the air with Catherine Silver when we heard that chopper fly overhead.
Right.
And that was an air ambulance going there to pick up that 3rd deputy. Mike DeForest was standing by. He was told that it was coming to that hospital in Sanford, but it never landed there. We believe it might have been diverted to a different hospital, Mike.
That's just our theory of what may have happened. Yeah, we were out here at HCA Florida, Lake Monroe, right on the edge of Lake Monroe in Sanford. This is where two of the deputies have been brought, one in stable condition, one in critical condition, undergoing surgery inside the trauma center here. And yeah, we were told by some officers out here to watch out because a helicopter was en route. This was, oh gosh, probably about an hour ago now, and never did arrive. And some folks out here were looking at some flight apps where you can track helicopters, and it looks like that one that may have taken off from the shooting scene where Catherine is may have gotten diverted over to possibly Waterman Hospital over there in Eustis. So right now, we are only able to confirm that two deputies have been brought here to this hospital, Lake Monroe. I know you throughout the night we've been seeing ambulances come back and forth. It's possible those are tied to this scene, but we don't have any confirmation of that. Obviously, this is a busy hospital, I shouldn't say busy compared to some of the ones, but obviously they have patients coming in and out throughout the evening. So some of the activity you may see back there is unrelated to this. We just don't know. Like any time that there is a high-profile event like this where security concerns are raised, law enforcement will put up a big presence here just to deter any troublemakers and just to have extra bodies on the scene, and that's what we've got going on here. That's why you're seeing these patrol vehicles here blocking off the front entrance of the hospital, both on this side and the other side. We've seen this happen before. A couple years ago, there was a shooting at Seminole High School, and again, big high-profile event, and they did the same thing here. So that's just standard. We do have a deputy leaving now from Orange County Sheriff's Office. You were mentioning how up at the scene there in Lake County, you're seeing all the mutual aid from these surrounding agencies. We've seen that too. We just saw an Orange County deputy, of course, Seminole County, because that's where we're at right now, Lake County deputies. And so they've been coming in and out here as well, providing assistance. And so we're just kind of waiting for an update now. Lake County Sheriff's Office had assigned one of their public information officers here to the hospital who was able to provide us some of the initial information. And we're just now, like you are, standing by waiting for those updates.
Yeah, and again, the whole community just praying that those deputies are okay, praying for their loved ones, family members, their fellow officers, because they go into work every day, vowing to protect and serve our community, not knowing what they will encounter, clearly aware of the danger that's out there. But then when something like this happens and you have 3 deputies who are injured, it just impacts the whole community.
It certainly does.
Yeah, and I know just looking on social media, and you can see so many people from across Central Florida sending their prayers and their thoughts to the entire Lake County Sheriff's Office, and especially those deputies and their family members and their loved ones, because they've got a long road ahead.
A force of about 500 sworn officers in the Lake County. It's a huge county, and there's a lot of unincorporated space out there. And to be honest with you, I mean, I know the city of Mineola, they don't have their own police because they rely on Lake County to field that. And we have a lot of small towns and cities in Lake County. So the force is quite large, and they are just doing their jobs on a Friday night, responding to a domestic violence call, we're being told. And then this is the scene currently as we take a live look from Sky 6. It's still a very large scene. I know we've been watching several law enforcement vehicles leave as we've been stationed outside of the media staging area where Catherine Silver has been live throughout the night and into the morning hours now, but still a very active scene out there with lights on. We do not know the status of what's going on right there, whether the scene is secure at this point. It has been unsecure, so we're going to keep calling it unsecure until we get that confirmation from the sheriff's office. And we do have Catherine Silver standing by live for us right now. Have you seen more law enforcement leave from your vantage point, Catherine?
Yeah, Justin, things had just come to a bit of a standstill here because there was a semi-truck that was trying to get in that they turned around. But you mentioned law enforcement leaving. There goes a truck, a sheriff with the Lake County Sheriff's Office. That looks like an unmarked car. I saw a Claremont police car just leave. Also, a Leesburg police car leave as well tonight. As we're seeing some of that happen, looks like I see some headlights in the distance. I've also seen some more police vehicles that continue to also head closer to the scene tonight. So it really has been a give and take, and we have been watching it all go down. I do want to share some more insight with you. Something happened around 12:45 tonight, and what happened was they had actually moved this roadblock. These two sheriff's deputies, vehicles that have been here throughout the night with us, moved so everyone got in their cars, including the people who live in this area who have been waiting with us. They started to move down the road closer to the scene within only a few minutes. They told everyone, you've got to move back. And then this roadblock once again was up with this police tape here as well. So we're not sure what that was about, but like you mentioned, as long as law enforcement has not told us, they have not confirmed that that scene is secure, we will listen to what they say, and we will stay at a safe distance as we wait to hopefully get some more information from them as the night goes on. We're hoping that someone with the Lake County Sheriff's Office will be able to give us an update and answer our questions soon, but their priority is what is happening at that scene tonight, making sure it is secure and that everyone else is safe. And of course, we understand that, and as soon as we have more information, we'll share it with you. I'll send it back to you guys in studio.
Yeah, Catherine, we've been obviously monitoring your live shot throughout the night, and earlier there was people, it looked like, who lived nearby, who were kind of gathered behind you, trying to see what was happening. It looks like, are you still seeing people just who live in that area driving up there, trying to get more information or trying even to get closer to that scene?
Yes, of course. And as I mentioned, right at about 12:45, when this roadblock moved, a lot of those people hopped in their cars because they live nearby. Some of them have been wanting to get home tonight, and they have been stuck. So when the roadblock moved, they got in their cars. They tried to drive closer, but that only lasted a few minutes before they were told they got to move back to this intersection. And this is where we have been since about 11 o'clock on Friday night. It is the intersection of County Road 439 and Mill Creek Road in Lake County.
So some of those people, they're not just curious, they actually cannot get to their house right now. They are being forced basically to stay away from their own home until it's resolved. And again, we're all
That's what they're telling me. Yeah.
Okay, and again, we've been continuing to see what appears to be a lot of law enforcement agencies leaving. Is that a fair assessment versus going toward that active scene on Brookside Drive?
I think that is a fair assessment, Lisa. I mentioned the Claremont police vehicle leaving, the Leesburg police vehicle leaving, a Lake County Sheriff's Department vehicle leaving. So you can count those right there just as one unmarked car with lights entered and went closer to the scene. So if you just look at that at face value, you could draw your own assumptions. We're, of course, hoping that we can get some real concrete information from law enforcement authorities soon for you.
Absolutely. And as we've been mentioning, for all the people who live in that area, give them some peace of mind that whoever was responsible for this is no longer a threat to the community.
Absolutely.
Catherine, thank you.
All right, as we continue to watch those live images from Sky 6, a vantage point that we haven't seen until just probably about 20, 30 minutes ago, where we are able to see just the sheer volume of law enforcement on that scene on Brookshire. Because from our vantage point, we were going off of a gentleman that we had conversations with throughout the night who had his eyes on what was happening. He was giving us play-by-play, but it was tough to sort of follow because we didn't have the video to match.
Absolutely.
And it's so dark out there that it's really difficult to sort of put this together as well. But
he was sitting on his front porch across the street from where this all happened, and as he was sharing with us, he heard the gunfire erupt around 9 o'clock tonight, continued to hear gunfire for several hours. Here's a little bit of what he shared with us earlier.
It sounded to me, I would say about 12 to 14 rounds of 9mm, followed by multiple fully automatic fire.
And just to be clear, to reiterate, they're moving. Deputies are moving up and down. It's not a stationary scene. So, for instance, it doesn't seem, from your standpoint, sir, that anyone is like holed up inside of a house or anything like that. It seems to you that deputies have been moving pretty frequently, and the gunfire has been changing as well.
It looks like they're moving north right now. All the vehicles that were just in my driveway are now headed northbound.
And what is north? Are more homes, more land? What's north?
More homes.
More
More
homes.
homes on the right-hand side, more acreage on the left-hand side.
And again, he lives on about 7 acres of land right across the street from where all of this happened today. It's such a dark area he was describing. You know, if deputies are out there trying to find someone who maybe have fled the scene, he described it as being surrounded by woods, a lot of dirt roads. And a little bit east of Eustis and Umatilla to give you an idea of where all of this was happening. And as he said, he's a firearms expert. He could hear different firearms going off for about 2.5 hours. And you can see on that map some of the wooded areas that surround this scene. And he said it, you know, seemed according to him, it appeared like they were still searching for someone. And certainly when he heard that gunfire for about 2.5 hours, he heard it shifting from different parts of that area. And then the gunfire stopped. And after that, he told us he saw 2 ambulances leave, each of them being followed out of that area by a law enforcement officer with their lights activated. And since then, he has not heard any gunfire. And so, again, I say all that because we are hopeful. We're still waiting for confirmation from the Lake County Sheriff's Office that scene hopefully is now secure. And we continue to monitor what's happening at the hospital now as we continue to pray and think about the deputies who are now recovering from their injuries. As we've been reporting, we know 2 of them were transported at approximately 9:30 tonight to a hospital via ambulance in Sanford. And then another one was transported by a helicopter at around 11:30 tonight. As Mike DeForest has been reporting, one officer we hear is in stable condition, shot in the arm. So we are hopeful that that officer will be able to make a recovery, a full recovery. The other officer was in critical condition at the hospital in Sanford, currently in surgery after being shot in the abdomen and in the arm. And then we have not gotten any details on the third officer other than that officer was transported by a helicopter at around 11:30 tonight, even though we think that that officer was injured closer to 9 o'clock tonight, but was on the scene for some time. We don't want to speculate why that officer was not transported earlier, but whatever happened out there, that officer was not transported until about 11:30 by helicopter.
Still quite a bit of movement as we take that live look at the scene. You saw a really large Lake County Sheriff's Office vehicle, emergency response vehicle, and a trailer as well leave at the same time. So again, I wouldn't call it a steady flow, but it's a continuous flow of vehicles leaving that scene. But then we take the view from Sky 6, and I think that's also of note. We have had a lot of law enforcement that we've been able to see leave the scene, and then we take this live look, and it doesn't seem like it's
still a heavy presence.
I mean, that's the thing. It's such a large presence. Is that a semi-truck?
It looks like there's still a semi-truck. I believe that has a Lake County Sheriff markings on the side of it. And obviously, lots of law enforcement vehicles. We've seen Mineola, Claremont. And as we know, when there is a situation like this, you will have support from all over Central Florida responding, helping in any way they can, whether it's helping with the staging area for the media or staging area for ambulances. Everyone, it's all hands on deck until that scene is secure and until they have the suspect in custody, till they are sure that they're not looking for any additional people. And this investigation is going to take some time. We are just in the very beginning stages of this. And we hope that when the sun rises, we'll start to get a better look at the layout of the land there and an idea of how big of an area this was, where that search for the suspect led deputies to tonight.
And then hopefully some positive news on the deputies' conditions, because that's what we've been waiting to hear as well. We do need to hear about the scene, whether that is still an active scene, whether someone is still at large, whether the public is still in danger. We don't know any of those details. We also don't have very much to go off of on the deputies who were shot tonight. And that's all sort of going to play out. Again, and there's really been no indication on when the sheriff or the sheriff's office will address the media. We don't have a sense on when that's going to happen at this point. I'm just checking my notes here.
We did just hear from the Lake County Public Information Officer that third deputy was taken to Waterman Hospital. And here is a live picture of that hospital. We still do not know the condition of that deputy, but this was the deputy that was transported out of the scene at around 11:30 tonight via helicopter. And initially we thought that deputy was going to be taken to the hospital in Sanford, where Mike DeForest was standing by. He even spoke to law enforcement there, who said, get ready, a helicopter's on its way. But we know that instead, chopper was diverted to Waterman Hospital. And again, you're looking at live pictures from outside the emergency room. You can see an officer outside the emergency room. You can see what appears to be some law enforcement vehicles outside as well, at least one truck, if not multiple trucks with the lights on there. Obviously, they regularly have security outside in an emergency room, but tonight it definitely looks like there is a bigger law enforcement presence outside that ER.
You have a huge scene. You have two hospitals, a lot to keep track of from the Lake County Sheriff's Office standpoint, and you have 3 deputies who have been shot tonight. So still just I wish we could give you some more information out there if you're sticking with us. It's 1:30, and I think the last update we got, the latest news that we got, the latest update that we could report was about an hour and a half ago-ish.
Right.
And so
I just checked X. The Lake County Sheriff's Office has not posted any updates there. And they certainly, are not on any other social media channels that we've been monitoring. We do not see any updates from them. I know earlier tonight you were in touch with Lake County Commissioner Sean Parks, who was trying to follow along.
He was. He after I initially reached out to him, I was just trying to find any information as we got the report on what was happening. Or what was potentially happening. We sort of just banded together as a newsroom trying to figure out, can we get this confirmed? What information can we get? And I texted Commissioner Sean Parks, and I wanted to see if he had any information. He was the one who told me that this was a domestic abuse call. That's how it started. He told me about the 3 deputies who were hurt. 2 were sent in the trauma unit. 1 was still on scene. This was earlier tonight around 10:45. So 1 was still on scene. That deputy was then transported to Waterman and Tavares. And then I asked him if there's any word on a suspect, and he was still waiting on that information. But the scene is very active and SWAT is on scene. And then he also said this was, yes, as I said, a domestic abuse call is how it started. And then he diverted me to the Lake County Sheriff's Office for more information on that. So we were just trying to figure out, put the pieces together on what was happening and what we can give out to the community.
I want to go back to Mike DeForest, who is standing by outside the hospital in Sanford, where the 2 other deputies were taken at around 9:30 tonight via ambulance. And Mike, again, as we mentioned, you were told to possibly expect a helicopter, and then that never happened.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting once we get all the information about the movements, and I've covered so many of these over the decades, and I would imagine if it was during the day and there were a lot of people around, law enforcement would probably be trying to get as much information out to the public, first to help the people in that area. Now, I know we're hearing from the folks who may not be able to get back to their homes, and hopefully they've got some kind of contact over there who's giving them information. But being that it's a little bit later at night here, and because it sounds like this is still a developing situation, it's not uncommon for law enforcement to not provide as much information as we're not really getting right now. I think they just want to get it right, and with a lot of moving parts tonight. And one of those has been where these deputies have been. It was only maybe about an hour and a half, 2 hours ago that we learned that 2 of the deputies were brought.
All right, Mike, we're going to have to go to...
We want to interrupt you, Mike, because there is Lieutenant John Harrell from the Lake County Sheriff's Office approaching the podium there. And so I apologize, Mike, but we wanted to cut away to get out to Catherine Silver's live shot. Let's go ahead and listen in. Again, this is Lieutenant John Harrell from the Lake County Sheriff's Office, the Public Information Officer.
Everyone ready?
We're ready now. We're ready.
Guys, we're ready.
All right, thank you all for being here tonight. I would normally open up by saying good evening, but as you probably know by now, it has been anything but a good evening here in our beautiful county tonight. So we're here to give you some details. Joining us here at the podium is our State Attorney, Bill Gladson of the 5th Judicial Circuit, Major Glenn Hall of the Sheriff's Office, Sheriff Billy Woods from Marion County Sheriff's Office, Major Todd English, and of course Lake County Sheriff Peyton Grinnell. So I'm going to turn it over to him and let him walk you through some of the unfortunate events of tonight. Sheriff.
Thank you for being here. I'm going to speak to what we know at this time. This is a very fluid scene right now, multiple agencies helping out. Florida Department of Law Enforcement is here conducting an investigation, but this all started around 8 o'clock earlier off of Brookside Drive, where we received a call of a disturbance that was in progress. The deputies responded, and while they were conducting their investigation, they were alerted to a home, we believe a couple houses down, that there was a problem there. And the deputies went to that home and saw what appeared to be the back door kicked in, and they could hear a disturbance inside of that home. When the deputies entered the home, there was a lot of gunfire, where one of the deputies was struck. The backup deputy that was there with him was able to retreat out of the home. The first deputy was trapped inside of the home. Multiple deputies responded at that time. They immediately formed a rescue team to go back in to attempt to get the deputy sheriff that was still inside the home. And they were just met with a hail of gunfire, a lot of gunfire, where another deputy sheriff was struck at that time. They were able to retreat. Obviously, we mobilized our SWAT team, knowing that we were dealing with a scene with a lot of firepower against us. The first deputy that was struck in the shoulder, I've been told, is in stable condition now. The second deputy that was struck, he was struck in the armpit as well as in the groin and the stomach area multiple times, underwent surgery, and is in serious critical condition. And I was just informed a little bit ago that the third deputy that was shot has passed away. Those notifications have been made. I will not get into specifics at this time of the names of the deputies. All of this is being investigated by the Florida Department of Law Enforcement. The individuals that were inside of the home, 2 are deceased, and 1 was transported. I do not know the condition of the one that was transported, but 2 of the suspects, if you will, that were inside the home are deceased, and 1 was transported out. With that, I'll take any questions.
What kind of call was this, Sheriff? Was this domestic? And then once your deputies got in there in that barrage of bullets, what was the situation? What happened?
So obviously all of that's being looked into. All I can tell you is it was a very violent scene. The deputies went to that home to conduct a well-being check at the request of the complainant that was the original disturbance call. And they could hear a lot of commotion going on in there, and that was the reason they entered the home. And as I stated, they were met with a volley of gunfire.
Sheriff, the deputy that has unfortunately passed away, can you clarify, was that the first deputy to enter the home who was stuck inside? That
is correct. That deputy sheriff, I won't mention his name right now, has been with us for quite a while. Started out as a young explorer, as a military veteran, and just horrific when you have one of your own inside of a home and you can't get to them.
Are there words you can offer to this community? We have been waiting out here. We have seen people who are waiting along with us who have had so much concern for your deputies and your staff tonight.
Yeah, this is a great community. You know, it was February of 2005 was the last time we lost a deputy sheriff in Lake County, so it's been a long time, thankfully, but tonight here we are again. But the community outpour has been great.
Considering the barrage of bullets and the situation that your deputies were under, how were you able to get the suspects finally? Because we saw from Chopper 2 basically a hole that was knocked in the side of the house. Even under the fierce conditions, how were you able to complete this?
You know, we have equipment for that, and that's the reason we have this equipment. And we tore the home apart to get in there so we could get that deputy out of there. It was just it was a chaotic scene from the start until the end.
Were the assailants deceased when you entered the home?
Two of the assailants were deceased upon SWAT entering the home, and the third one's been transported.
And this was an initial disturbance at a different home?
That's correct, in the very near proximity.
Were they related?
That's all being looked at right now.
And it's safe to say there's no longer a threat to the public on this road?
No, we do not believe that there's any threat to the public. Everybody that was involved is accounted for and in custody.
We saw a number of law enforcement agencies assist. At what point were they called in? How did that kind of play out?
You know, when a law enforcement officer is shot, especially here in the state of Florida, you don't have to ask for help. They show up. You know, Sheriff Woods for Marion County, FDLE, had the FBI here helping, alcohol, tobacco, and firearms, many agencies here. And that's what we do. We come together for this, and it's going to be a long time before we get back to a sense of normal.
And as far as the families are concerned of the deputies injured, the deputies killed, I know it's a tough time for them. You've been able to talk to them, Sheriff?
I have our critical incident stress management team with them. When I leave you, that's where I'm going.
Anything else you want to add? Because this has been a tough situation. And I know it's tough for the men and women in blue and black in a situation like this because you're all family.
Yeah, I would just ask that you keep the men and women of this agency and law enforcement in general in your prayers. They have a tough job, and we lost one tonight.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your
message to the community.
I'm sorry?
A quick message to the community.
Yeah, I'd like to just say thank you for all of the prayers and all of the text and emails and the phone calls that we're getting in support of the deputy sheriffs. So thank you very much for that.
Sheriff, one question. Was this house known to your deputies? Is there any kind of history at this house?
Well, the history that we found so far, really, it's animal complaints. Our animal enforcement unit's been out there for a couple times, but we don't show anything as of right now. We don't show anything of any violent crime.
So no way they expected anything like this to happen tonight?
They were ambushed.
But again, it was a well-being check on one house, a barrage of bullets in another, and they started shooting at your deputies first?
Actually, we went to a disturbance at one house. The initial call was for a disturbance, and then while we were on that scene, somebody at that scene told the deputies they needed to go to the other house, that's where there was a problem happening, and when they got there, they saw what appeared to be a door kicked in, and there was some commotion in the home, and they were just met with a lot of gunfire.
Was it a domestic call, a domestic disturbance call?
No, the original call was just a disturbance in the neighborhood.
Sheriff, that second home, did your crews find anything else concerning inside of that house?
I can tell you, upon the initial sweep of the SWAT team, there's multiple firearms inside of that home, everything from long guns to handguns.
Is that why we saw EOD?
We always have EOD come out when we're doing an entry on a home because you just don't know what you're going to enter into.
How long was this deputy on the force for, sir?
I don't have all the specifics right now, and I just want to be careful about talking about that until I make sure all of the family's notified.
The two suspects who were deceased at that scene, were they killed by law enforcement fire?
That's all being looked at by FDLE. I don't know if it was our deputies that shot the two that were deceased, or if it was a murder-suicide, which we see in these type of situations.
And lastly, the deputy that was airlifted to Waterman, is that the deputy that died?
No, ma'am. I believe the deputy that passed away was ground transported.
Have there been previous calls to this house in the past? I mean, let's talk about this street and this community here.
Yeah, the only calls that were showing that we had a reason to go out to that particular area was for animal enforcement complaints.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Sheriff,
Yeah.
can you confirm that there is one of the deputies at Waterman Hospital? We've been told that there's quite a large law enforcement presence there tonight. And is that related to this?
Yes.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Just awful news coming from Lake County Sheriff Peyton Grinnell tonight, confirming that one of his deputies was killed in the line of duty in what they call a hail of gunfire in a very chaotic scene. Just to recap for you, and we will be checking in with our Catherine Silver, who was out there. Deputies were called out at around 8 o'clock about a disturbance. When they responded, they were then alerted to a home down the street. And that's when they saw a back door kicked in, could hear a disturbance inside, went inside, and then gunfire just erupted. And one of their deputies got stuck inside that home. Backup deputy came in, was shot, able to retreat, call for help, but that one deputy was trapped, and despite forming a rescue team, calling in SWAT, and as he said, tearing apart that house, they were unable to save that deputy's life. And 2 other deputies are currently in the hospital in pretty bad shape. Hopefully they will be able to recover. But just the worst news imaginable. We were hoping for a different outcome tonight.
They said that that deputy who tragically died tonight had been with the force in Lake County for quite a while, a military veteran, started as a young explorer. It's the first time Lake County has lost a deputy in the line of duty since 2005. A chaotic scene, as the sheriff called it. We also know that the sheriff said that 2 suspects are deceased inside that home. And it is multiple firearms in that home, is what he said. Animal enforcement had been out there a few times, but nothing at the level of what has happened here tonight, and just said that they were ambushed and a deputy was stuck inside of a house. And anytime they would try to come in, that's when the other 2 were shot.
Yeah.
They tried to go and rescue their fellow deputy. Gunfire then rained down on them. One was struck in the shoulder, another struck in the groin, abdomen area, and in the armpit, underwent surgery in serious and critical condition, still fighting for their life at this hour. Yeah. And it's just, it's the worst news that we could have gotten. We were hoping for some positive outcomes out of this, but man, that's a tough one.
We do want to check in with our Catherine Silver, who has been out on the scene all night. And Catherine, at this point, the only thing perhaps positive about this is that the sheriff said they do not believe there is any more threat to the public at this point. They believe 2 suspects are dead and 1 is now in the hospital.
That is right. There appears to be a resolution tonight, even though it is the one that no one wished for. And as we were listening to Sheriff Peyton Grinnell speak to us tonight, his words stood out to me. He said they were ambushed. Let that sink in. His deputies were ambushed. He said they were responding to an initial call tonight when they heard about a disturbance at another home. When his deputies went to that second home, they were met with gunfire. One of those deputies was stuck inside of that house. They called for backup. When backup got there, once again, they were met with gunfire. And we have the results. We have those 3 deputies who have been shot. He gave us an update on all of their conditions tonight. The first that was struck in the arm is stable. A second deputy struck in the shoulder and abdomen is in surgery. He is in serious condition. And then that 3rd deputy has passed away. And the sheriff told me that is the 1st deputy who entered into that second home tonight. The sheriff also told us about the suspects in this case who was inside of that second home. He said they found 2 individuals deceased in that home. A 3rd person was transported out. They also found lots of firearms inside of that second house tonight. So we are starting to get an idea of what happened here in Lake County tonight. Certainly it is a tragedy for this community, and I know their hearts go out to all of the law enforcement officers here, and so do ours. But once again, the sheriff's words tonight, his deputies were ambushed. I'll send it back to you guys in studio.
Yeah, just an awful update from the sheriff. And, you know, the question was asked, has law enforcement been called out to that home before? And they really hadn't had problems out there before, other than a few animal incidents, he said. But again, the absolute worst news that we could have received tonight. Sheriff Peyton Grinnell just announcing that one of their deputies was killed in the line of duty tonight. We do want to check in with News 6's Mike DeForest. And Mike, you mentioned it earlier. The last time that something like this has happened in Lake County was back in 2005. You covered it, Deputy Sheriff Wayne Kester, and he was one of 3 deputies also shot in that incident 19 years ago. And that incident happened just about 12 miles or so from where this incident happened 19 years ago.
Yeah, I go up that way up to the Ocala National Forest quite a bit, and I think Deputy Wayne Kester Highway is right up in that area, named in memory of the deputy that was killed. And I had forgotten that was the last time that Lake County Sheriff's Office had lost one of their officers in the line of duty, which on one hand is just a miracle that they've gone 19 years without something like this, but horrible, horrible, horrible that they're going through it tonight. And it was just chilling to hear Sheriff Peyton Grinnell use the word ambushed, saying that these 3 deputies were ambushed at this home, because that was the exact same terminology they used 19 years ago when, again, 3 Lake County deputies responding to, I think it was a domestic call. They're doing their jobs, just responding to the community's need, not realizing that somebody's lying in wait for them. And that's what happened in that situation where they lost a deputy. Tonight they've lost a deputy. 2 others, the only good news to come out of this is that those 2 deputies, 2 others are still alive. They're here at HCA Florida Hospital, Lake Monroe. One of them, who was shot in the arm, is in stable condition. We heard the sheriff update that the one who was shot, I think he said the abdomen, is now in serious condition, has undergone surgery. I think the sheriff said he may be heading out here to the hospital. He has a response team now with the folks who are here. So I know their thoughts are all about the deputies here. Starting to piece together now, makes sense that when we know that one of the deputies had passed away in this shooting, that was possibly while they were bringing him to the hospital. We don't know what his status was right when officers were finally able to get to him, but it sounds like it was very, very sadly quite a while before they could get into that house. So that's what's going on here at the hospital. It's been fairly quiet for the last few hours. We continue to have a law enforcement presence just kind of guarding the main road in front of the emergency room. We've seen law enforcement officers from various agencies come back and forth. Not to mention we've seen ambulances and others just from normal operations here at this Seminole County Hospital tonight. But right now the 2 deputies who survived this shooting are here. I think the sheriff said that he is going to be headed here at some point tonight. They have not released any of those deputies' names yet, understandably so. I can't imagine being the family members of these law enforcement officers who know this is going on and not hearing the names, and I'm sure at least the family members to the deputies who are here and being treated, I'm sure they probably know right now. But just what an awful night for that law enforcement agency to have to share this information with their deputies' families, and so very, very tough time. And we're just going to keep standing by here as we wait new developments in this case. Back to you.
All right, Mike DeForest, live for us, and we're going to echo what the sheriff had to say towards the end of his remarks to keep law enforcement in your prayers tonight, especially the law enforcement who are continuing to fight for their lives inside the hospital, undergoing surgery for, sounds like, very serious critical injuries as well. What stuck out as well from the sheriff's remarks, how terrifying, not only tragic what happened tonight, but how terrifying that must have been to not be able to get to your deputy who you know is clearly injured.
And in such a dangerous
situation. They had to literally tear the house apart
Yeah.
by the time they were able to get inside and take care and secure the situation, also known as killing the people who were trying to shoot them. That's just terrifying.
Yeah.
And so it's such a tragic night.
An unbelievably painful night that will leave Central Florida wounded forever. Sadly, this will go down in one of the worst days in Lake County's history. But again, 3 deputies ambushed earlier tonight at around 8 o'clock tonight. One of those deputies sadly has lost his life, and 2 other deputies are currently fighting for their life. We know the investigation is just getting underway. The only good news in any of this is that there is no longer a threat to the community in Lake County. 2 suspects are deceased and 1 is currently in the hospital. And again, we know that that investigation is just getting underway. The Florida Department of Law Enforcement and many other law enforcement agencies are out there, and this is going to take weeks, if not a year or more, before we fully understand what happened, how it happened, who was responsible, and what will happen in the future.
And we're going to have the latest for you coming up in about a couple of hours on News 6 at 5 a.m., News 6 mornings, and throughout the day, throughout the weekend. Meanwhile, we also have a tropical system bearing down on central Florida. So stick with News 6 throughout the weekend and our website, clickorlando.com, as we continue to get some new information on tonight's horrible, horrible incident.
Our team of reporters will continue to be out there. Our newsroom will continue to be working for more information, and our team of meteorologists will be here tracking all of the threats in the tropics for you. Of course, you can get the latest on the morning news starting at 5 o'clock, and you can also always get updates at clickorlando.com. We thank you for joining us tonight.